Hello, this is Breeby Crafty here, and I have my lovable lug with me again today.
I guess I am working on a name. I just haven't fully decided yet.
I probably shouldn't say again, because this might actually end up going out before the other one.
Actually, I just thought of something, and we're not going to make this official, but I just thought of a ridiculous scenario. I'm your lug, and I'm a big fan of the Mega Man games. Maybe you should just call me Lugman or something.
Yeah.
It wouldn't be the worst name they've
Working
had.
on names, though. We'll figure out something. But anyway, today, on request from my love here, he wants to talk about Pokémon Starters. But before we get into it, I want to say that I have, been through Pokemon and gens and stuff, so I do know a fair share, but not as much as he does. My brother, on the other hand, he is obsessed with Pokemon, that you could play a random noise and they don't even say their name in the old Game Boys. He would know exactly which Pokemon it was. It's crazy. We used to play that game a lot when we were children.
It's kind of sad how even nowadays with the Switch releases, the only ones that do are Pikachu and maybe Eevee, but I haven't played with Eevee yet, so... But yeah.
I think Eevee does. But anyway, I guess we could start with the first gen.
Okay, so we're just going to give our thoughts on each individual one in order. So I guess we'll start with Bulbasaur. And I want to say, I do like Bulbasaur, but of the three, I think he's the one I would pick the least often, because I would really do that. I would play the game, finish it, and then start a new game. I haven't done that with all of these, but I have done it with a lot of the earlier generations. Bulbasaur, I think, is very well-rounded. It's got a great skill set, and it definitely is very, very helpful, especially early on in the game. But of the three original starters, I feel like it's my personal least favorite.
I think that me and you have a different kind of mindset when picking the Pokemon. I usually didn't care too much about stats. I'm such a typical girl when it comes to this thing, that I would choose more of which one I like the looks best, and then I'll wing it the rest of the way. If I were to play today, I would probably read more on the stats, but I like playing my horror video games. I haven't gotten too much into Pokemon recently, but as for first gen, my first starter is Charmander. I always enjoyed the fire types, but it seems like I have a pattern here, at least starting out. I do pick Charmander in my first round.
So you're not going to talk about Bulbasaur at all?
Nope.
The whole point of this was to talk about each individual one in order, remember?
Oh, I didn't know that's what you wanted to do.
I explained that in the opening.
I thought you just wanted us to talk about our favorites.
If I was going to do that, I wouldn't have talked about Bulbasaur. I literally called it my least favorite.
I wasn't paying attention, to be honest.
Oh, for the love of...
But anyway, I guess I'll talk about Bulbasaur a little bit. He's leafy green and adorable, and I would hug him. I'm just making jokes, I guess, now. I do like some of his evolvent forms, and as an artist standpoint, though, I think he has a lot more of a creative design. I know not a whole lot of people would agree with me, but there is more of a design set base for Bulbasaur and the evolvent stages that I personally like more so than the others, whenever we're going from an artist standpoint.
Okay, so let's talk about your favorite next, Charmander.
Charmander is the Pokemon I pick because I like fire. He's also the most simplest design. I actually made a felting project. If anyone wants to check it out on my Instagram, my name is Breeby Crafty. You'll find it easily. But Charmander is my favorite.
Shameless self-plugging.
Yeah, I do
Alright,
that
that's
sometimes.
cool, that's cool. Right, I say, now, I like Charmander, and I was a... Charizard was really cool. Like, he was like...
He was a jerk in the anime.
From a game standpoint, though, Charizard is like the glass cannon. His defense isn't that great, but he's got great power and speed. And the other thing is, like, back in the old days... Like, Charmander could not learn Metal Claw. He was horrible against both the first two gyms. So that's the thing. If a person you knew had a high-level Charizard, you respected that person because they had to earn it.
Well.
So having Charmander and Charizard, that was like, you earned that back in the day.
I feel like Charizard is a fan favorite because, I mean, you can even tell it with the video games on how he gets a lot of the special treatment, even in the new evolvements and everything.
And like with the new like Gigantamax in Gen 8, like technically there's DLC coming, so the others will get that as well. But of course, Charmander got it first because it's European setting, so let's give the dragon the special treatment first. But
also he got a special spot in the Pokemon movie, Detective Pikachu. I think was one of the other evolvents of one of the other Pokemon in there, but Charmander was definitely that limelight there.
Yeah, I by the way, I love Detective Pikachu, but I'm calling bullcrap. Blastoise should not lose to Gengar. I'm sorry. No, I don't buy it. Speaking of which, my favorite starter from Gen 1, Squirtle. And this is going to be... I've always loved the design. I love its final form, although he was a bit of a chunky boy in the first sprite, because they were all the old sprites were a little ugly looking, but...
I think they all look like they've gained some weight in the first ones and slimmed up later.
But Blastoise was always my go-to for, like, the first gen. So, and I've always been like a fan of like the turtle Pokemon because I think it's kind of cool. It's like the different ways they interpret it because in real life there's a lot of different types of turtles. So I like with Squirtle, like all the ones came after him. I think it's kind of cool to see how they can do the same idea but change up a little bit. But also, I know you don't follow stats, but Blastoise and Squirtle, Wartortle, Blastoise, if you train them well, they are the tankiest of tanks back. And
I like Big Ban from Skullgirls. He's a big tank. Now I'm talking about his size. I'm talking about his fighting style.
He takes a licking and keeps on kicking.
But
so go ahead.
What I liked about Squirtle, I do like some of the movesets, and I don't know, I just keep going for the aesthetics from an artist standpoint of what I like about the design. As usually what I usually think about.
Well, I guess we'll move on to Gen 2, but I will say Squirtle will come up later on in this discussion from me, because he will tie into one of the later generations. I'll just say that right now. So next we have Chikorita, the Gen 2 grass starter. Chikorita I always thought was really cute, and Meganium I thought was kind of an interesting design. Again, I like the it kind of did the same thing Bulbasaur did, where I like the very dinosaur-like appearance. But I feel like Chikorita was one I used less often because, again, like the other two I thought were more interesting looking. But the other thing is, the first two gyms are not good for using grass types. So again, much like Charmander in the first gen, like it's just like that's like picking hard mode if you chose Chikorita because you had to earn that.
I actually don't really remember much of this generation in the anime series, though. I like to go off about what I remember them in the show, but I just cannot remember Chikorita.
See, Chikorita was actually really sweet in the anime because she would like Ash's Chikorita was like really buddy with him, and she like nuzzle up to him. Yeah. And even after she evolved, she would like to like be all snuggly.
Oh, I bet that was adorable.
Yeah, Chikorita was really cool in the anime.
Out of the three in the game console, I did pick Chikorita myself. I don't know what about it just drew my attention, and I'm just like, you know what? I'm picking Chikorita.
Alright, so next we have Cyndaquil, which Cyndaquil was the first time I
think I remember Cyndaquil in one of the movies.
Yeah, Cyndaquil was definitely in, I think it's like the third movie. I could be wrong, but I think Cyndaquil appeared in the third movie.
I think this game right now is like trying to remember the past.
But anyways, I would say that was probably the first fire-type Pokemon to become my favorite starter. And, like, I find normally I prefer the water types, but there are occasions where one of the other two will be my preference. I will say, and I'm skipping ahead a little bit here, but with Totodile, I like the design, but my problem with it is kind of the opposite, where like with Squirtle, it had good defense, and if you trained it right, it had really good like special attack. Totodile is more of a melee hitter, and that's one of my big problems. If you have a water type, they just physical attacks over special attacks. Depending on the moveset, that's kind of like a waste of time. Because, like, especially back in the old days, we're like, oh, you might have Ice Fang, but old days, water type attacks were all like, like shooting a blast at a distance. They weren't like scratch or bite where you actually had to physically hit them. So if your regular attack was better than your special attack, what was the point of having a water starter? Again, like Totodile, sometimes you get lucky and get good stats where this physical attack was not as good as a special attack. But, as much as I hated giving it Surf, I kind of had to give it Surf just to make sure I did decent damage with it. So, I know, I skipped ahead a little bit, but yeah, I think that's why I would give Cyndaquil the favorite spot for Gen 2.
And I picked Chikorita for Gen 2. Cyndaquil, I always like my fire types. I do enjoy a good fire. It's cute as well. Gosh, I'm just going to go through and say which one's cute. Typical girl, right? As for Totodile, I think he would be my least favorite. He does kind of give me vibes from Sonic a little bit. You know which one I'm talking about? Gosh, what's his name?
Vector?
Yes, Vector. He kind of makes me think of Vector, except, different color.
Well, also, like, in the anime, Ash's Totodile like to do little victory dances whenever he's proud of himself.
Oh my gosh, maybe
like,
they are related.
Toe. So I guess you kind of go there.
Yeah.
All right, so Generation 3, Trico. Honestly, Trico was kind of in the middle for me. I thought it was really cool looking. I liked his moveset. And, like, that was right around the time when I just got a PS2, I believe. So, like, I was playing a lot of PS1 games retroactively, and that's around the time when I found the Gex games. So, of course, I named my Trico Gex.
I think Generation 3 is probably what I mostly played. I've actually had each and every one of the starters in that one, but I already know which one's my favorite. But
yeah,
we're starting on Trico, so I'm gonna have to talk about Trico. And in this one, Trico's actually my least favorite. I do like his evolvents, but I don't know, his style is not for me.
Again, I think this is one where the anime helped a bit because like Ash's Trico was really cool. Like he had the little stick in his mouth, like he's like the bad boy of the group.
Yeah.
But like also, like again, like I do. And aside from the whole Gex thing, I really think it's kind of cool. They like he's not really dinosaur like, but they kept like sort of like the reptilian look, and I think that's a really good choice for the grass types. Where like they're very associated with nature, and I think that was like a good design choice for that.
One of the things I would really like to do is take some polymer clay and actually like recreate a lot of the starter Pokemons and put them in a sort of an environment base. And it's just something I always wanted to do. I really need to get around to trying that sometime.
All right, okay. So you said Trico was your least favorite.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, but Chikorita. Sorry, Torchic. Oh my god, I'm
you're
tired.
fine. You're fine.
I'm tired. Torchic was my least favorite, and especially when it first evolved into Combuskin. I'm like, what is this thing? And then later evolved into Blaziken. I'm like, okay, I like this one better than the first two forms, but still, this thing is kind of ugly looking.
Well,
and like, I remember specifically in the anime, there was an episode where Ash was at the Gen 2 tournament, and like they debuted Blaziken as like a sneak preview of the next games, and they made a big deal about how cool this thing is. I'm like, no, it's kind of ugly.
I think Jaden Animation did a Nuzlocke challenge and actually had Torchic and named it Teriyaki. I thought that was so cute and clever. And also how it was animated. I know she has help sometimes with her animations, but whoever did the animation, it was absolutely adorable to see that little thing fight.
Alright, so I guess
tear things to ribbons.
Should we get to our shared favorite for this one?
Yeah,
Mudkip.
number 1.
Mudkip for Gen 3, our shared favorite starter. And like,
I absolutely adored Mudkip. Yes, I'm a Mudkip fan. But what I could say about Mudkip is that one of the reasons why it holds so dear to me is that it was probably like the only gift I can remember receiving from my great grandmother before she passed. She actually bought Mudkip for me for one of my birthdays, and I absolutely loved that thing as a kid. And I guess it holds dear to me because I still have that thing in my years today. It's just in storage. I need to dig it out.
Okay.
It's probably collected some dust.
Sorry, go ahead and finish.
I was just going to also say that I also like the artistic style like I do with a lot of my favorites. And also I think it did a good job in the anime series.
Okay, well, we're 15 minutes in, and we're only first through Gen 3 out of 8, so let's...
We could do one.
We'll try to speed this up a bit. I have one quick story to wrap this up and move on to Gen 4. As much as I love Mudkip, my first time playing, I passed on it because I saw an early promo for Gen 3 which showed Sharpedo. And I had wanted a shark Pokemon for so long. So eventually I played through most of the game, finally got one, and it was exactly what I was dreading, where it could not learn any water-type moves naturally, only TMs, and its physical attack was better than its special attack. I went through the entire game without getting a water Pokemon for one that was a huge disappointment. Now granted, in more recent games they've changed its stats and its moveset to be better, to where its physical attack is still higher than special, but it actually has some moves that benefit from that. But original Gen 3 Sharpedo was the biggest disappointment. I immediately reset the game and started over just to get Mudkip after that.
One of the things I would like to add, though, we are rewatching Dragon Ball and Dragon Ball Z and stuff. I think we should probably try to go back and rewatch Pokemon, because there's a lot of things I know I have forgotten, and I would like to rewatch it, and maybe we could come back and do a different take on this video afterwards.
Just a heads up, though. There are so many episodes in that, it's going to take us a really long time.
Oh, isn't Dragon Ball taking us a long time?
There's way more episodes of Pokemon than there are Dragon Ball.
Well, as long as we're not watching One Piece.
Or Fairy Tail, God forbid.
Oh, I actually like Fairy Tail.
That's going to take us way... anyways, Gen 4. Turtwig. Honestly, Gen 4 is probably one of the ones where I really didn't care for most of them. Turtwig, I would say... I don't hate it, but this was the first time when I legitimately didn't think that they did the best job with the evolutions. I feel like its final form Torterra is just not that great. And also, with its middle form, I just really don't care for the name. But, yeah, I'm going to try to keep it brief because I don't have much to say about Turtwig. How about you?
I think this generation I had the least involvements for, so I don't have much to say about Turtwig. You know, the twig.
The twig. Alright, so next we have Chimchar. Honestly, I probably picked Chimchar the most, mainly because before Platinum version came out, it was the only real choice you have for fire types. It's like, and plus, technically speaking, its lore was inspired by Sun Wukong, who was the inspiration for Goku. So, in that regard, it actually probably is the best Pokemon starter for Gen 4, in all honesty.
I actually like Chimchar, and I'm a sucker for monkeys. I don't know why. I absolutely love monkeys. I think they're adorable, and I picked Chimchar just for the fact that he was a monkey.
Yeah, monkeys are pretty cool animals.
And also, it's fire type. I like my fire types.
Yep. Piplup, I'm very torn on. Again, I like its design, and I think its final form Empoleon is really bad. As in, like, the good cat bad, like Michael Jackson. It's bad. Unfortunately, I hate the water and steel dual typing, because that essentially takes away its resistance to fire types. You know, like, if water takes half damage from fire, but steel is weak to fire and takes double damage, so basically it just nullified its... It'll still do more damage against fire, but its resistance has been nullified. So that was kind of a dumb decision, if I'm being completely honest. The only other thing I really liked about Piplup was it was the first water starter to learn Bubble Beam by leveling up. Bubble Beam was my favorite move in Gen 1, and I hated they took it away from the TM list. Mainly because, like, that was my before trolling was really a thing, that was my go-to move that could be considered a troll. I was like, I'm going to kill you with bubbles. It's like I loved that move. Just I was like, I'm killing with bubbles. This is the most ridiculous thing, and I love it.
I don't know much about Piplup. Chimchar was the only character I played in that gen, so I didn't know much about Piplup, and I didn't know much about the Twig.
Twig.
Yeah, I would probably call him the Twig.
So
Not just any Twig, the Twig.
yeah. So next we have Gen 5, and I know you don't know much about this gen.
I actually did not play this gen, but
right,
we could go ahead and split this
I'll
into
go ahead.
parts. So
No, let's just go. I can blow through this really quickly.
we could just skip the fifth one.
Well, we can have a longer video, because some people like to listen to long videos when they're like riding in the car, so this will probably be fine.
Okay, fine.
So Snivy was the one I picked the most, because this is like the first time when I think a grass was my favorite. Though, to be fair, I just don't like any of the starters in Gen 5 that much at all. But Snivy was kind of cool, and its final form superior was actually kind of nice. I liked it, and it had good stats, had a good move set.
I feel like I would have picked Snivy.
It's like, next, Tepig is cute, but it's yet another Pokemon from the category of fire fighting, which we haven't had enough of those yet. And its final form Imbor, which is really ugly.
I usually don't pick pig characters. Even the pig character in Fruits Basket, I did not like her. She was so annoying and obnoxious. I just can't get behind pig characters, I guess.
Like, the only reason I ever tried Tepig was my second playthrough, because I thought it might be useful against a couple of the gym leaders, but after a certain point, there's like other ones that are much better choices, and I saw no point to it. Then there's, okay, I'm gonna be honest, I didn't watch the Gen 5 anime, so I don't know officially how to pronounce. It's either Oshawott or Oshawott, and honestly, I care so little for the Pokemon anyway. This is the only one I don't care how to pronounce its name.
I don't even know.
It's like, I've heard it pronounced both ways. I don't care which one it is. I hate this Pokemon.
I'm sure someone's gonna correct us.
You know, the thing is, like, I saw fan art of a lot of people, like, apparently people liked it, and I just didn't care for it at all. And especially its final form, Samurott. Like, oh god. Samurott was a mess. It's like, imagine this thing, bigger, on all four legs, big, ugly, like, facial hair, like, white beard, and a giant horn coming off its head. It's like, I get what they're trying to do with, like, giving it kind of a more unique look, and taking inspiration from, like, samurai helmets, I guess, but it's just hideous. I'm sorry. I guess next we have Generation 6.
At least he's a cute otter.
Trust me, enjoy it while it lasts. Alright, so next we have Gen 6. And I find this generation interesting because I've heard a lot of people give it flack. Because, okay, well, Chespin becomes the knight, and Fennekin becomes the wizard, and Froakie becomes the ninja or the rogue, and their final forms are all very obvious what they're supposed to be.
I think it was a ninja.
Yeah.
This is the first generation where I actually started naming my Pokemon.
It's like, alright, well, with Chespin, I honestly didn't use it that often. I maybe used it like once, and when I finally got its final form of Chestnut, I'm like, I just don't care. I really don't care. And there are so many other like grass Pokemon in that generation that I did like better. And even then, it's like, I just didn't care for the Pokemon in general. I was kind of dull and bland.
I didn't choose Chespin. This is another gen where I only picked one.
Right.
So Chespin I don't know much about. I do think he is interesting in the design aspect. But also, does Croaky look like he's wearing glasses?
Wait, what?
He looks like he wears glasses, Croaky, or otherwise.
Froakie.
Froakie. Sorry, I said his name wrong. He's another one I didn't pick.
It's like, honestly, and we'll get to that in a second too. Like, Fennekin is the one I pick the most often, and this all ties together. But again, I let people criticize its final form for looking too much like a wizard and not being as cute. Which, like, even its second form, Brazen, which was very much like a witchy character with its tail being like a little broomstick.
Oh
And
yeah.
it's like, but like I thought its final form was Delphox, which is actually really cool.
Gives me Halloween vibes, which I love Halloween. It's my favorite holiday. But Finnegan is absolutely adorable. Again, fire type. I had to pick Finnegan.
Okay, so
And I even have a plush of it. That's how much I really like Finnegan.
So-
And I want to draw some aspect pictures. Now thinking more about it, getting back into the memories, I want to draw some pictures of Finnegan.
now with Froakie, I like Froakie and I like Greninja, but I never use them. And here's why. Okay, when all this promotional stuff was coming out about the new games, so the new starters, but then we found out we're getting the old starters back. And that's what shot it in the foot because, and I never got the chance to do this, but I always wanted to make a comic strip where it's like my reaction to every generation water starter. And like, yay, Squirtle, you're perfect. And then I go through down the list and I would progressively get, I was like, Squirtle, yay, Totodile, all right. Mudkip, yay, Piplup, all right. It's like Oshawott, however you say. I'm like, ew, what are my options here? Then when it gets to Gen 6, I would run right past Froakie, be like, Squirtle, welcome back, buddy. I missed you so much. And like, so like, Squirtle's all happy, and Froakie's like, just all sad, like, what about me? I'm like, I'm sorry, guys. I would choose Froakie if they didn't bring my Squirtle back. But, again, I like Froakie, I like Greninja, but they brought back my favorite starter from Gen 1. I'm gonna take my Finnegan, I'm gonna take my Squirtle, and I'm good. I'm set.
In the next generation, I disappeared again, took another
Okay.
hiatus. I did not play Gen 7.
Okay, now Gen 7, brief aside, I'll say this. It had an interesting story for a change. The problem is all the damn cutscenes you couldn't skip. Now, here's the thing. Game Freak, if by any... I know it's a long shot that anyone from Game Freak ever hear this, but if you happen to work for Game Freak or you know someone who does, please do pass the message along. We're fine with good stories. That's one of the things that Gen 8 was lacking. Gen 8 had a horrible bare bones story. Gen 7 had a good story for the most part, but if we can't skip the cutscenes, or the majority of dialogue is stuff we don't care about, like, oh, you need to use this camera. Let me show you how. I never use the camera. I don't care.
Are they bringing Fatal Frame into this?
No. There is a part where you have to use the camera for a specific section with ghost types, but that's near.
Ooh.
But it's just you can see them and like battle them. It only lasts for a second. I never cared about the stupid camera. But anyways, story is good. Cutscenes, give us the option to skip them if they're pointless. Anyways,
I would have picked the kitty.
yeah, okay, so I was gonna say this right now.
If I played that gen, that's what I would have picked. I'm just saying. Real quick.
I'm gonna try to make this fast because I picked Litten every single time. I never bothered with the other two. But with that being said, I would get Litten to its second form to a Torracat, and I would not evolve it again because I hate Incineroar. And I know I'm not alone on this. Plenty of people were tired of the bipedal fire starters. We would have been happy having just a fire tiger. You get that would have been perfectly fine. We didn't need a pro wrestler based off Tiger Mask for our fire starter. And I don't care if it's in Smash. That did not help anything. And I will say, like, again, I did not really use. God, I'm sorry. I knew the grass starter's name, but I'm blanking right now because I'm so tired. But I never used him. Meanwhile, the water.
You don't need to feel ashamed. I don't know any of their names
Like,
until you tell me Litten.
I did know, but I forgot. I'm sorry, I'm tired. Meanwhile, Poplio, the water starter. I'll say this much.
Populo?
Poplio.
Wow.
But here's the thing. Poplio is another one that disappointed me. Because it is so close to something I've always wanted to have. But it's not exactly the same. So it...
Were they trying to go with a circus theme?
Well, here's the thing. I can show you the pictures later.
Mm-hmm.
But just a brief story. One of the things I did years ago is I made my own, like, fan ideas for starters. And one of them was a water psychic combination that was a dolphin. And it's like, I called it Porico, like porpoise and echo.
You know...
And, oh wait, hang on.
Okay.
And it evolved into Mer Echo, which had slightly more human features here and there. And when it evolved to its final form of Siren Noise, it fully transformed from a dolphin to a mermaid. And when you look at Poplio's final form, it's kind of the same thing where it's a sea lion that has like a mermaid tail, and it's not exactly the same, and it's water fairy instead of water psychic. So it's like really, really close to what I had in mind. But the fact that it's so close and yet not quite makes it... I don't know, I personally cannot bring myself to play with that starter Pokemon because it just... I don't know, I guess it's like a personal thing. Like, it's so close to what I want, but it's not what I want. It makes me think like, man, it just bugs me.
I think at this point, I feel like you would have a more interesting conversation with my brother than with me because he is obsessed over Pokemon. He probably knows everyone, for like the back of his hand. I mean, like, I think you would have definitely more of an opinion on each Pokemon here.
Well, I know someone you would probably like to talk to. I don't remember their channel name. I apologize, but if I find them, I'll bring them up in a later video just as a shout out. They're a group of artists who they put up videos where they will take Pokemon that they don't like the designs of and they'll like collaborate and make new versions of them.
Mm-hmm.
Although I find it funny, one person in the comments section of a video, they pointed out they changed Pangoro, his design, and because they thought it didn't look that great. And someone in the comments like, you guys know the whole jacket thing is because it's meant to be like a delinquent, right? The whole thing, it's like a schoolyard delinquent. You're kind of missing the cultural references here.
Isn't that what Squirtle was with his glasses?
But I mean, like, literally, it's the design of its fur was meant to like someone, like a delinquent with their jacket hanging open.
Oh, so it's actually part of the Pokemon.
Yeah, it's like, literally, the Pokemon's fur for Pangoro is supposed to look like a schoolyard delinquent with their jacket hanging open.
Oh.
Yeah, so, like, but they apparently didn't get the subtle nuance of that design choice. Like, okay, that has to go. We're gonna take away that. We're gonna take away the stick in its mouth, because, delinquent, no, we're gonna just give it, like, a bigger stick to hold onto, like, a staff, which I get what they were going for, but I just think it's funny someone called them out on it.
Well, anyway, we should probably wrap up to the final generation.
Final gen for now.
Which is the one you've been playing a lot of lately.
Okay, so first we have Grookey, the grass monkey.
And you know how I feel about monkeys. I have to pick the monkey.
And I just want to say, I find it hilarious that the European region has a grass monkey that turns into a gorilla drummer. Every time I see that thing, I just want to play that song, Hey, hey, where the monkey is. It's like the little band, like, playing their theme song. But, then we have, Grookey, I like it, but at the same time, it's like, I can't help but laugh at it. And, by the way...
That intro scene with them all was so adorable.
It's like, next we have Scorbunny. I think Scorbunny is cute, but... I know other people have said this, so I'll go and say it too. I am also one of those people who's sick of seeing the fire and fighting combination. Like, there were the last two with Fire Psychic and Fire Dark did get away with it for a little bit, but we now have half of the fire starters that turn into fire fighting combos. Can we please drop it? And it especially stings a little bit when it's the only one that's like a dual typing.
Isn't this the first generation where the stats seem to reset every time you get the Pokemon again? Like, because you could actually restart the...
They've been doing that for a while.
Oh, I guess I just never noticed.
Yeah, it's like, they introduced a thing at one point where like they get a personality type, and it's like they may have done an earlier version of that beforehand, but like when you get your starter, like the personality type of their nature determines what their stats are going to be like.
Shows how often I restart my game, I guess.
And on a side note, I have to call bullcrap on some of the stats because it's like some of the Pokemon you have a 50-50 shot of getting male or female, and yet 90% of the time if I restart the game, I'm going to get a male for some reason. I'm sorry, you want to have a female so you can get eggs and breed for better stats? You used to spend 3 hours trying to get the female first. Haha. And then we have finally Sobble, the one I went with.
I had a hard time with getting a specific kind of male or female with Eevee. I can't remember which one I kept getting. Was it males? I think I kept getting males.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like, typically, it's easier to find males, it seems. Sobble, I liked its middle form okay, but its final form, Inteleon, I really like. I like the whole secret agent gimmick, and I like that its signature move is literally like a water pistol from its finger. I thought that was a really cool idea. I know a lot of people are kind of split on that. Some people don't like its design and its like forms. I'm in the crowd that I do like it, but I guess it's just me personally. Though considering it's like based on espionage, I think it'd be kind of interesting if it was like a water and dark combination. Is like symbolizing like the shadow ops and like the secret organizations that spies often showcase in like movies and stuff. I think that would have been kind of a cool idea. And like getting back to what I was saying earlier about the firefighting thing, I probably would have just kept Scorbunny as like pure fighting. And if you really want to make a dual typing, do something kind of unique, maybe like a fire and electric dual typing. That would be kind of interesting because it's so energetic. It's like a soccer player. And since Grookey and Rillaboom are like drum themed. You know, they're pretty muscular. You could probably make that like a grass and fighting combination because drums can be used as like batons. You could do something with that. But yeah, I think. All right, so I guess everybody's going to overall thoughts. Let's see, Gen 1, Squirtle's the best for me, and Bulbasaur's the least. Gen 2, I'm going to say I like Cyndaquil the most and Chikorita the least. Gen 3, Mudkip the most. Torchic the least. Gen 4, Chimchar kind of wins by default and Turtwig the least. Gen 5, Snivy gets best by default. It's a toss-up for the other two, probably Samurott the least. Gen 6, Fennekin wins for me, and Chespin loses just for being kind of bland. Gen 7, Litten, except for its final form, and I guess it's a toss-up for the other two. And finally, with Gen 8, I go with Sobble as my favorite, and Scorbunny is my least. How about you? Which one would you say is your favorite and least favorite for each one overall?
Well, I feel like they don't need a rundown on all that.
Well, sorry, I just tried.
Oh, you're fine. I wanted to state what I was going to say. Overall opinion is that I think Pokemon is becoming really complicated. There is being thrown in so many other things that I'm having a hard time keeping up with everything. And that might be one of the reasons why I'm losing interest. I'm not as big of a fan as I used to be with Pokemon. And even the story kind of seems like it's not as interesting anymore.
Well, again, like, that's the thing. And we can probably do a more in-depth discussion about this some other time, but just my overall summary of the series, I feel like Gen 8 is kind of like where we've hit a bit of a stale point, because the last generation with 7 had way too much focus on cutscenes, but there was a good story buried under there. It actually had some interesting character moments. But Gen 8's big problem is, like, there's too many cutscenes and the story's really watered down. Like, we will handle this because we're the adults. You just keep going on the path and don't do anything interesting whatsoever. And also, one of my favorite YouTubers, Arlo, shout out to him. Hey, keep up the great work, man. He made an interesting point where, like, the older games actually were a bit more in-depth with some of their locations. Like, there were certain areas in the game that were very maze-like, and require a lot of puzzle solving to get through like caves and certain buildings. Whereas nowadays, it's all very streamlined. Like, outside of the big wild area, which is kind of a glorified safari zone, there really wasn't a whole lot in Generation 8. You basically went from point A to point B, and if you didn't look around the areas very much, they were over very quickly. So I guess my whole thing is like, the story got better, but then when the new generation came out, they dumbed it down way too much, and everything's gotten so handholdy. I would actually argue things have gotten less complicated over the years.
Anyway, if you want us to talk more about the most recent generation, we can come back with another video and talk about our opinions. I'll even try to pick up the game a little bit further and play a little bit more in depth in the game. My lovable lug actually has more experience in the most recent generation than I have, and also I have a bad memory of old generations, but I will put forth the effort if anyone wants to know more opinion on Generation 8. But anyway, thank you so much for your time and listening to us rant, and if you made it this far into the video, I appreciate you, and you have a wonderful day. Take care.
Sayonara.